We are starting. It is on. It is on. What is up, you fucks? This is the proof of conspiracy. So I think that's the name of it. I don't remember. I don't remember the name of this. We did it so many moons ago, too many moons ago, but now we are back to continue the saga. The saga of chaos, the saga of beauty in the world. Oh, what
Please
are your
stop.
conspiracies seeing today? Well, we have Angst and IA here with us today. And they are sexually aroused to give out all the info
Always,
that you need.
always, all the time.
They are ready. So what
Especially,
is
especially when I'm in proximity to IA. I mean, I'm
Oh
usually
my god. I
at
made sure
attention.
you both were right next to each
Yeah, at
other in the
attention. Yeah.
boxes.
Well,
Yes.
actually, they're on my lap, but it's okay. Nobody's supposed to know that.
I just like to watch from the right corner of the screen and
Yeah, no, you
just
sit on the
hang
cuck.
out.
You sit on the cuck chair.
The chair is good. I get to smoke as much as I want there,
The
so I
cuck
do.
chair. Yeah.
So,
Anyway, I'm gonna
Illuminated
put a
A.
notification for this.
Oh, sweet, sweet. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I was trying to do before. I think I did it.
I got,
I don't
I
fucking know.
got you. I got you.
So,
I got you covered.
Illuminated Ape, what what is on the docket for tonight?
God, you're stupid.
Well, in a nutshell, what I would like to accomplish tonight is a continuation of the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago on the Illuminati.
Do you want to give a
Uh,
recap,
Generally,
like a
like we
super short one of what happened
Yeah,
last time?
yeah, well, that'd be good,
Like
probably.
ultra fast, ultra fast.
ultra fast. What I have on my screen right now is what we touched base on at the end of last episode. It is a quote from John Robinson's book. Uh, and I want everyone to just kind of keep this consistency or this consistent information in their head, which is during the Enlightenment period that we covered well, 2 weeks ago, uh, we had a figure called Adam Weishaupt. Adam had a really good idea that he was going to start a secret society, that he was going to infect the Freemasonry, the lower degrees of Freemasonry, and that if that didn't work, because it was sort of the same kind of vein, he was going to go into academia, the sciences, and if he could control the tip of influence, his influence could trickle all the way down. So the ideas of the Enlightenment period were not necessarily anti-God, but anti-religion, anti-Catholic Church. They were sick and tired of a religion being able to dictate the science, understanding of the world, and this shift in consciousness occurred that allowed for the creation of our country, the United States. It was a thinker called Thomas Paine that had the literature Common Sense that sort of sparked on this idea of why do we have to listen to a king that's thousand miles, over thousands of miles away, that gets influenced by the Catholic Church, that, we don't really have true freedom. And there we go, the Revolutionary War happened. But the revolution wouldn't have succeeded. We wouldn't have beat Britain if it weren't for the French. And that's another aspect of this. Uh, the French Revolution was thought to be a Jacobean conspiracy. The Jacobians were associated to Adam Weishaupt's Illuminati. So, in a rough gestalt recap, that's what we covered in last episode. That the creation of America may have been the start of the Illuminati plot to install a one world government.
Beautiful, beautiful. I
And
remember.
Nice summation.
I remember that. I remember that. Maybe.
yep. So
Yeah.
go going forward in this presentation, I want to make it really clear what everyone out there should be looking at. Um, throughout this presentation and throughout other ones that we're going to have in the future, which is the symbolism of the Illuminati. There's two things that are most consistent, which is the pyramid and lesser known is the owl, which owl represents as a god of called Minerva, Roman god Minerva. It's a sign of wisdom. The equivalency would be Aphrodite. Would be the Greek equivalency of the owl, um,
That's
as a
Dumb
symbol
Money's
of that god.
favorite.
That is. That is.
Aphrodite.
Ah, he loves the
And it,
love queen.
yeah, he
I
loves the queen.
Esqueen. As the first
Queen.
waifu I heard.
The original waifu.
The original waifu. That is
Okay.
indeed.
All right. Sorry.
No, there isn't a. No, it's okay. I like, I like these segues. I was going to actually do another segue myself, which is on our. I think you both have saw in the sub recently that there may be a conspiracy regarding who I am. There's the prominent one being that I'm Alex Jones. And
What?
that's, I think, a great segue.
Who
Maybe.
said that? The fuck?
It's been out there. I've seen it. I'm like the Illuminati. I'm always watching.
There we
This is a
go.
conversation I saw that was there, and I I think it's a good theory. I'm not going to say yay or nay on that one. Um, but
I don't
there
think
is one.
I don't think Alex Jones has enough knowledge to talk about any of this and make any sense. But whatever.
Well, Alex
Well,
is about
on
to
that
show you
topic,
angst right now.
Okay. All right.
now if I was Alex Jones and I was trying to sell you some water filters, I would also probably try to sell you on the idea that the Bohemian Grove statue was Moloch, the bull that you sacrifice children to, and he makes a pretty good story. But no, I mean even the Wikipedia tells us pretty clearly because they think that we're retarded, that we're not going to get this information. But Bohemian Grove is all fixated upon the owl. That's Minerva. So they have the owl's nest, which this is, they were talking in with Ronald Reagan, Nixon, and whatnot. It's just a little area that they get to hang out in. Everything sort of has an owl theme, you know. That's why I really push back against this idea that, this right here was said to be Moloch. No, I mean, it's from the side here, but this does not look like a bull. Where is its horns? It is an kind of a makeshift owl made out of a actual stone. And we all seen, I think, generally the clips that Alex Jones has shown before, people in robes, um, doing some sort of ceremony in this. Uh, it's just a little weird, I don't think personally that our government figures should, or any Hollywood person generally should go into a remote area and worship a stone owl, but this is the world we live in.
May I
Uh,
posit a counter argument? I have no problem with pagan worship. So, if in fact there is any kind of elder god worship occurring, I personally don't see anything too wrong with that, just because it's associated with the U.S. government. Only because I don't see it all that much different than a lot of more conventional sorts of religious worship that a lot of our statesmen may participate in. But it's all about, for me, intent. So anyway, that's my opinion.
it, it- yeah, I guess I could agree on the intent of all that, but this is not like an open club. You have to
Mhm.
be invited, and they also don't allow women. Um,
Classic elitism and
It's
stuff.
sort of a segregated thing. Uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's similar to Freemasonry. They don't actually allow women, but there's some sort of weird debate going on in that sphere right now where trans men are allowed, but if a member of the Freemason becomes a trans woman, they get kicked out. It's just like
Fascinating.
some
That's
things just don't
interesting.
make
I
sense.
didn't even think about such dilemmas being a thing within these sorts of groups. Like I didn't even. That's the first time I've thought about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
That's
and,
fascinating.
that's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
debate for another
it's like a modern
time,
issue.
but
Yeah, that
I
they're
just
dealing with. Yeah.
it's sort of fascinating to me as well. Um, But I just wanted to bring that out there because so many people online are getting false information from that Alex Jones figure about this being Moloch, and that just gives me sort of a pause to consider maybe he is controlled opposition. He's trying to feed people bad information in order to confuse the conversation. But there's a consistency I feel with the owl, um, Illuminati throughout time, and it may have, I would say, throughout time, it's these secret societies still existed. They have come with different names. Illuminati is probably the most famous one of all the conspiracies, um, but it's basically a system that's existed for all time, which is elite people think they know better than us, to small people. And there's more small people on the pyramid of influence than there is the top people. And that's the system that has been invoked for all of time, in my opinion. Yeah, what do you think about that, Angst? Like in terms of influence down from the tip of the pyramid to the bottom.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, my kid had just come in here a second ago and decided to interrupt me. But what specifically about such pyramids? Like what
Well, the
aspect of it?
influence, right? Do you believe that at any point in history that the common person has been in control of the humanity's destiny, will you say?
Well, yeah.
Or has it always been at tippy top of influence that's
I mean,
controlling everything else?
I mean, if you're talking all of human history, absolutely not, because I mean, especially if we're talking like nomadic, cultures. If we're talking
Let's say
tribes,
since the creation of, I don't know, religion and gods and such.
like kind of like staples of civilization when it comes to like institutions and things like that. I mean, like if you're
Right.
talking about something like a state, since the creation of a state of some kind, whether it be a monarchy or whatever. Um, I mean, obviously during those time periods, there was very little for any kind of. I mean, prior to anything in which I guess what is kind of considered to be, what oftentimes is referred to like democratic methods or what have you, to have any kind of even perceived influence on those at the top. To some degree, like, okay, this is the only way I would say that the people at the bottom have had more of an influence or control than we'd like to give them credit for, and those times are basically the manner in which those people are the what's the word for it? It's a senator and his not delegation, no, constituency, right? So even
Go ahead.
King had constituency, right? He had his people. So there was only so much that they could do against their own people, and there's only so much they could take before the levee would break. So in some respects, there was some semblance of control even at the bottom, um, in that sense because of the numbers game that's involved. But
Hmm.
I don't know that you could say the same about now. I think the numbers uh, mean far less now than they used to. The numbers actually mattered prior to a lot of the technological advancement that we deal with today, because numbers actually meant manpower, and manpower meant a coup d'état that actually mattered. So
Well, if you think about it like this, what is the modern day equivalency of the Times Square or a common square,
the internet,
town square?
certain social
The
media,
internet, but more specifically, social media.
certain
So
types of
people go
social
on
media.
social media. We'll say, give the example of Reddit or a Twitter. People go
Yeah,
on there, they say their speech. If this was the 1800s, then they would go out in the Times Square and they would yell, get on their soapbox, and make a crowd to gather
mhm,
around them to hear what they have to bitch about. And
yeah,
that's the
of course.
equivalency of the internet. It's just behind a computer screen. But without that, uh, vitriol and anger that can build up as a crowd
Mhm.
that leads into an angry mob, no one ever gets a pitchfork up their ass anymore. At most,
Well,
they
that's what I'm
get
saying.
some
It's
Twitter please come in.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. A mob or a general consensus against a system of power amongst a population of people, usually led. Funny enough, a lot of these revolutions were generally led by uh, kind of sometimes jealous or mid class elites and stuff like that. They wanted to actually take the
Hmm.
position at the top to begin with and use the populace to as a vehicle as such for such things. So
Useful idiots.
yeah, well, useful idiots or useful. I mean, it depends on the revolution, right? Like, so
Well,
it,
it depends if
how
the idiots know what they're doing, if it's an awareness is involved.
okay, all right, fair enough. But yeah, I would say I agree. It's just there's no version of that that can really exist. If anything, the way you said that the town square is a lot of social media, and some people argue that, oh, I've heard this online a lot. It's like Twitter doesn't really matter because Twitter is just a collection of academics and famous people and rich people and people that have too much time on their hands that are able to sit around and bitch all day on the internet, right? So the average
Right.
person, the average Joe, uh, you know, is not really spending all this time on Twitter having these discussions and so on and so forth. But similar to the town square, right? Even within the town square, the only people that would get an opportunity to be listened to on their soapboxes, and generally the people that had time to be listening to the people in the town square on their soapboxes, were not the people that were, out there and plowing fields, right? Doing all the work. The common person was too busy just trying to sustain their own land or life as a serf or otherwise to find the time to go to the town square, right, and participate in philosophical conversation and listening to the meanderings of various philosophers and such, right? So it's funny because it's kind of it's still true. So it is a town square in that it is still people with enough time and enough privilege in some respects to really sit there
Hmm.
all day and use Twitter. And but anyway, sorry, I went off there.
No, no, it's a good conversation to have. I was just sitting back and kind of reflecting on one of the aspects of the Times Square, and now also the idea that, I guess, lack of a better word, asshats are using various controversies to their advantage. And just like my background picture of the Civil War, that's no different than what's occurring today on social media.
I
We're
mean, minus
divided.
all the bloodshed,
We're
but
shooting at each other.
not
Well,
quite as much
we're
bloodshed, but
shooting
Depends on
shit
what
we're getting
side
there.
you're on.
It's not quite as much bloodshed, but yeah. Hopefully, we'll never get there again. Hopefully.
Well, I would argue that we're already there. We're just not going out in the times or in the town square and doing anything about it. We're ready to throw such vitriolic comments at each other and completely result to ad hominem in every argument rather than try and empathize with each other's position, come into some sort of reasonable grounds.
There
Uh,
is an
if you
argument.
remember with the comments,
Sorry.
should
Well, I was just going to say there is an argument to be made that because the Times Square has taken a digital format, it in fact has created a form of sort of directing all that tribalism, vitriol, as you said, and everything toward essentially avatars on the internet instead of human targets, right? So, um,
like throwing your anger into a void.
yeah, you're throwing your anger into a void, which, on one hand, it makes the population pretty impotent against any kind of threat of assembly toward a tyrannical government or whatever you want to call it. But also at the same
Hmm.
time, it makes it a lot easier for those individual people to let out some of that tribalism and everything else in a non-physically violent manner, even though um, it does turn into some pretty vicious shit like defamation and all sorts of things that could be just life altering and shattering. Um, I don't know. There's an argument to be made whether that's better in some respects than what a family feud, for example, that would go on for generations would have normally turned into, and other things of that
Mhm. Well,
nature, right? Yeah.
well,
So
well, on the topic of like saying things of libel, if you're saying something in good faith, being that you truly believe this is based on the evidence that you have acquired,
hmm
then that should be allowed in my mind. Every instance then becomes sort of an investigation, if that person is in good faith or not in good faith. But at the same time, I feel like these things can be figured out pretty easily with just a little bit of due diligence. If somebody has an affiliation to a competing company, then it might be a little bit more obvious that there's a conflict of interest there versus some Pepe on the internet. But that just goes along with sort of the idea of what the First Amendment was supposed to be representing, which is the discussion of controversial ideas. And right now, there is a ongoing debate about whether hate speech can be included in the sort of the idea that it incites violence in some way, that um, which is a caveat to the First Amendment that the Supreme Court has ruled doesn't is not protected speech when incites a mob to go attack somebody. Go figure.
hmm
Um, but generally, I think it would make things a lot easier if we were just open to ignoring um, the voices of people that just had offensive things to say rather than silence them, because that is a slippery slope.
no, I mean, yeah, I know it just makes me think that like in this age we have both easier access to information, but it is easier. There is a very easy manner in which to control it, oftentimes. But at the same time, we have things like we force because of the amount of devices we have that could capture proof or evidence, at least for a while.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of the people at the top were forced to up their game because there's just too much information available and too many images that can leak and pictures that can be taken, too many liabilities amongst people that work within them, and so on and so forth. Which up the game for they had to up their game as far as remaining reclusive about any of their darker dealings and the such. But at the same time, with the advent of things like a lot of this AI generated stuff, now we have another solution to their problem, right? Because
Yeah.
they can now just make
Well,
claims
that
of
creates the idea
falsehood.
of blackmail. That
No, but
creates the idea
falsehood.
of
They use it
blackmail
in
inflation.
yeah, but they can use the imagery, like the fact that such blackmail would be possible, or inflation, like you're saying. They can use those things to basically discard any real leaks or real information or real imagery or photography or video that may be recorded attempting to say prove some misdoing, right, that might be occurring at the
I
top.
agree.
So then you just end up in a situation where they can literally use that very technology as it progresses to call it smear campaign and propaganda. So you won't even be able to differentiate between what is legitimate proof of misdoing or conspiracy or corruption, and what is anything of no value or just mere attacks and slander. Like it's gonna be
It's very
impossible, man.
convenient. Very convenient, I'd say.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. While all of that is a real possibility with the advent of deepfake technology, the opposite of a bad thing is also true here, in the sense that the powers that be that control people with coercive means such as blackmail, um, and maybe potentially put people that are terrible people in positions of power because they are very blackmailable. This scheme, it isn't going to work for much longer. That's a huge power loss for people that are in the higher echelons of power. And I think that is a big proponent of why so much is sort of coming to a head lately,
Mhm.
um, in terms of the global change of status quo, um, and how there's going to be a shift to a sort of, or they want to do a shift to a new age, where things are a lot different. We can say WEF, we can say the UN. They have goals, and that could be the future. I don't like it, but if we're just going to keep arguing in a town square, it may just come to pass. Not now. That's me getting a little bit too doomer.
That's the kind of
I
shit
mean,
I
I was
like
about
to
to say
hear.
that's a little too doomer for you.
That's the
Uh,
kind of shit I like. Now you
uh,
talking, IA. Now you talking.
well, my hope in this presentation is we get enough people to become more aware that the crux of the problem is secret societies, and we just get rid of them. If we get rid of the secrets, then there can't be any more secrets, right? That
that's
makes sense.
You
that's a
could
pipe dream.
you could
That's a
pay a
pipe dream.
premium service to get secrets
Uh,
revealed every month if you
and the
sign up
only
to
reason
my
it's a pipe
service.
dream is because I can't. There's just so many ways to create these societies that they're just even if you made them illegal, I don't even know how you possibly could. Even a constitutional argument you can posit to try to make these secret societies illegal or remove them in any way. I just don't. There's just no way. It's just too much regarding humanity's need for information collection and to use said information to gather resources for small groups that they
Well,
ally themselves with. It's just
you're thinking about this. Yes, I think the loss here is that you're thinking about this in terms of how are we going to use law to our advantage here. I mean, even the best military out there can't track down terrorists. So I don't think that we should be putting our trust in any sort of militaristic order or governmental order to track down people that may or may not be influenced by the very same people they're tracking down.
yeah.
Really, it starts with just making it so people don't want to join these orders. We have to
That's
change
I can't
the
imagine that
so
either. Personally, that's hard for me to imagine.
I can. So the big appeal, in my opinion, of why people would say join the Illuminati is the Illuminati are claiming to have secrets that no one else has. It's like it's basically a product, an exclusive product for only their members,
Mhm.
and that's a very appealing thing. Secrets of the Universe is a very appealing thing, and if money is behind it, then it also seems more legitimate.
Yeah, but
I think just generally
I was going to
that
say
problem.
the problem lies is if in fact there is, and this is woo woo obviously, but if there is in fact any kind of legitimacy to these these supposed secrets that they may in fact possess. So I mean, it could be just basically a dog and pony show, theatrics for the sake
Yeah,
of
they could.
it could of just nonsense and elitism and control and power and money and whatever what have you. But I just wonder
Placebo
like
effect
if
is strong.
yeah, but I often wonder. I'm like, and it's probably just my love of kind of occult things in general and esoteric information of all kinds is the idea that they do in fact possess something of a less material nature that they are maybe implementing in the most horrific ways, and it's just a thought. It's just a thought, and it's interesting to me. So, like,
It
IA.
may
if it,
be, but
Uh,
but
wouldn't you
then how
want
do you
to
combat that?
have
How do you
that on the PBS?
No, yeah,
I want to have
no, actually,
that
that's
stuff on
weird. That's
television
the rough part. It depends on who you ask, because like there is
or internet. I
pretty
want people to talk about it. We can get to the bottom
Yeah.
of this if it was an open discussion. We have a processing power that is unlike anything this world has ever seen based on how many
Yeah.
people are on the planet right now. You know how many CPUs that is? We can figure this shit out.
Yeah. Well, that's the hope,
Hey,
right?
Just get all those Ethereum
well,
miners.
Demon.
Get all that shit.
Okay,
No,
Ethereum miners.
we are at the 30-minute mark, so I just wanted to tell you, IA, so
Okay, let's
that we
continue down
continue with the
the actual
presentation.
thing. Yeah, the presentation. My bad.
No,
My
no,
bad.
no,
This
it's
is what I do
good.
to
It's good. I'm
everyone.
just letting
All
you
right.
guys know.
Let's keep going down the presentation. I want to hear the rest of what you got to say.
I just want to bring up a couple things. So this is the Elefante or Elefanta kind of plan of how Washington, D.C. was going to be. You know, nothing really nefarious here, right? And this is the area I would focus on right there. But it doesn't really look like much right now. But let's morph this over time. This is the Nick Millen plan of 1901 for the mall. What does that sort of resemble right there? And maybe
A
right here
coffin?
as well.
Almost a coffin, but yeah.
That looks
Um.
like
Also,
Satoshi
a upside
Metal's
down
new
cross right
but.
here.
Oh, you're talking about that. I thought you were talking about the full layout. Okay. I mean, it could be, but it also could be a right side upward. I mean, it
Well,
depends on the angle, but yeah.
I can help with the angle here.
Oh, okay. Ooh, we got Mothman or the owl, Minerva. We
Yes,
got
yes.
Minerva.
Minerva on the top of a pyramid. I mean, that's just a coincidence.
Of course.
These are just weird coincidences.
Um.
Not even including the fact that you can find owls on a U.S. currency. That's just hidden in the emblems and such. That's just
hmm.
coincidence.
I don't.
What are you gonna say?
I don't think they're coincidences, but I don't. I like to speculate on what do you think? Besides them, obviously they're not. Not obviously, but it's probably not a coincidence. But what do you think is
I'm
happening
saying
here?
coincidence as a shitpost.
No,
Uh, well,
I know you are. You're being sarcastic, but what I'm saying is that if it's not a coincidence and it is something that is intentionally being done, what do you suppose that is? What is your opinion?
I see it as sort of like a nod. So there's so many nods that you can do where you don't directly show your hand, but you let everybody else know that is in the know that you're in the know, kind of thing.
Mm.
That's what a nod is. And this is sort of like a nod of the alliance or the um, association to potentially the United States government and the Illuminati, or a sign that there is a control here.
I mean, the layout is very owl-like. Yes,
That looks like
I'll give
Al.
it that.
It's
I would have gone with Mothman,
Mothman,
but
Al,
you know,
either one.
no, yeah, but yeah, it's
so
interesting.
we got asshats from Washington D.C. going
Mm,
over to the Bohemian Grove for more owls.
mhm.
There's an owl consistency here.
What
Um,
other evidence of owls are there that somebody could look up
well,
if they were?
if you look on, let me find it real quick. I didn't have this for the presentation, but our
Mhm.
general currency, the U.S. dollars, have owls in them. They're sort of small and they're sort of hidden. So see if I can pull up an image real quick.
Okay, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm just
Now,
curious.
what if the city architect just had like an insane marriage with an owl and he wanted to pay tribute to his lovely wife that he has
Yeah,
been married to for the
marry
past.
out to the. Okay, I
Oh.
see.
So this is
Okay,
Ah.
it's a little,
so
so you can find them. They're hidden. You have to take a magnifying glass to it. This is low image, but I found real quickly there's other things out there. Just search U.S. currency owls. You'll find them. Or open up your wallet right now and take a look. They're
it's fun.
there.
It's funny
Um,
because if anyone's a comic book nerd out there, and if you're a DC reader and you like any Batman stuff, you would know that the elites within Gotham,
The Court of Owls.
yeah, the Court of Owls. It's
Yep.
funny,
Yep.
funny to think about. It reminds me of the Court of Owls.
Yeah, I'm a person. This is might get into the sort of a metaphysical topic, which I don't mind to have, but I'm a person that believes that throughout your own life, the universe sort of gives you the information that you need to pay attention to. And for whatever luck that I had out of the drawer, the universe wanted me to know about the Illuminati and owls. It had all these different signs. So I've thought about it in my life, and I've had so many weird experiences that I kind of think about back on, and I'm like, yep, this is all sort of the plan of the universe kind of thing for me to see this stuff. Um, I love. Do either of you have any of those weird experiences that sort of consistently through your life that sort of connect bigger events?
I've had that's the thing. I tend to be when it comes to this stuff. I'll be honest. I tend to be very much like skeptical of even my own connections, and
Mhm.
I've experienced a lot of odd things. I've my schizoid spectrum brain basically makes a lot of connections very quickly between events and things that were I not to oftentimes like do a double take, I might immediately make conclusions as to their causality and their connection. So I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I'm not sure that I sorry that I really like have that same belief as far as my own seemingly non coincidences that I've gravitated toward in life over the years. So there are times in which I question such a thing, but
Well, I bring it up because I like to think about the universe as sort of a dream that we're all sort of sharing at the same time.
mhm.
Because if you imagine how would somebody control that dream? That would probably be the objective of anybody that is seeking world domination if the world and the universe was all dreamt up. They would want to mentally control the majority of the people, and then they would be able to shape everything the way that they see fit. I think we're not there at that time, but I worry about this potentiality in a future where we have brain chips and people may have insidious intents with that.
Okay, all
And
right.
this is why I am here with you gentlemen right now, because I am one of those people that believe that the Illuminati seeking ultimate control is after the, the ability to, what, for lack for a better word, create the universe.
And I am here because I find these subjects really interesting, but I do believe in coincidences in many respects, and I am skeptical of some of these things. So, but I still like to listen to them, and I still keep an open mind. So that's my style.
Well, I want to bring everybody up to Civil War times, Illuminati style. Something
Let's
that is
go.
overlooked a lot because people like to say this is a hoax. You know, we know a lot about hoaxes in modern days, right?
What is a hoax? What is a
Um,
hoax?
Snope, it's whatever Snope says, right?
Oh, okay.
Whatever is false on Snopes, that's probably a hoax, or whatever the media tells us is fake news.
Well, many people are fully aware that
That
Snopes is terrible at gauging
right.
anything.
I
Like
don't
they
know
have a
if
history of
everyone
mistakes.
is. I don't know if
No, I know, but
everyone is.
they have a long history of being very much politically engaged. Non, they're definitely not making non-biased decisions on a lot of this shit. But yes, go ahead, continue. Sorry.
No problem. Uh, we won't get to the full extent of this today, but over the course of, I hope, many talks, I am going to prove that this letter is not a hoax. It is 100% legit based on connections that Pike had over the course of his life and how he influenced the world at large. And who was Albert Pike? Just a rough gestalt on that would be he was a Civil War general. He was the founder of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry in America. Um, and he was the de facto influence of Knights of the Golden Circle, which I will touch base on soon. Do either of you know of the Knights of the Golden Circle?
I do not.
I've heard it before. I would have. We One thing we got to start doing there, IA, is before these, you need to give me like a quick paragraph of what you're going to cover, so I can do a refresher course on some of this stuff. Because like some of this stuff, I remember the names, but it's been a while. Let's just say since I dug these things up myself. So, but yeah, I'm
I will
not as
remember next time.
yeah. It'll just make for
Okay.
more kind of fun conversation.
Well, what Albert Pike was doing in this instance was he sent a letter to the person that was thought to be the head of the Illuminati. You know, after the death of Adam Weishaupt, 100 years have gone by, and now we're in the Civil War period. There's other people that have taken or co-opted his idea and kept the plan going forward. And then we have Mazzini. So Albert Pike, leader of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry at the time, sends him a letter. This is supposed they supposedly had this letter at some times. It's been lost to history, but these predictions ended up coming true. And in a weird way, he also knew of the word Nazi over what uh, close to 70 years before Nazism became a thing. So I would argue that his plan is what has shaped our current world in a lot of different ways. So the First World War, this was his prediction, must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the czars in Russia and of making the country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergencies caused by the agitator or agents of the Illuminati between the British and the Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments or in order to weaken the religions. That's basically exactly what happened. We move into the Second World War. Must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so Nazism destroyed and that political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Now, that's basically, again, what happened in a nutshell for World War II. World War II was the catalyst for the creation of Israel. Now we go into World War III, which, I don't know if we're there yet, but it seems in a lot of ways that the pot has been stirred in order to allow for something like this to occur. And he says the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenda of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and the political Zionism, state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to nations that the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody of turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries. will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity. Those deistic spirits will from the moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render their adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. But finally out in public view, this manifestation was out from the general reactionary movement, which will allow for the destruction of Christianity, atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. A lot to take in there, but I kind of want to break this down in a very interesting way because what this strikes me the most right now is exactly what's in my background, what I touched base on like 30 minutes ago, and that is we are divided. Oh, this is the plan. If we're divided, we can't see who the real enemy is, and it's people that have basically a God complex and think they know where the world should be. I don't care if he says Lucifer. Lucifer actually doesn't mean like the satanic Lucifer, but a more of a secret society way of understanding the light bearer or the bringer of knowledge. It's the consciousness. They think of like the snake influencing Eve to eat the apple of consciousness was a good thing. But it goes into older and older mythos of how humanity is both blessed and cursed with the knowledge that we're going to die one day and we're the only unique creature out there that is that has that burden.
Um,
They have sort of taken this to a extremist degree.
um, okay, so me being the usual skeptic that I am, I actually I've seen this before, but I've never actually dug deeply into the like you said, there's claims that it isn't real. Some people claim otherwise, so on and so forth. You said that over time you kind of want to prove that it is, or that you believe,
Mhm.
But what I'm curious is, why is it so? And I know because like that's the thing. I got my whatever. I don't really care about degrees, but I got my master's in history. I did a lot of primary source stuff and everything else regarding a lot of different subjects, including stuff that had to do with really interesting, fun things like MK Ultra and all that kind of stuff because it's really fun for me. What I'm
Yeah.
curious though, is as far as this writing, this letter, that kind of really, really puts together some pretty prophetic shit, as far as or some may argue a plan that was being set in place that somehow went off without a hitch thus
Well,
far in
this
many regards. Oh,
mm,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just
No,
going to
sorry.
say this guy lived in the Civil War ages, and he was so far removed from the
Yeah, that's
First
what I'm
World
saying.
Wars. You
It's
have
almost
to consider
prophetic.
that.
That's why I say it's prophetic. Like it's prophetic, right?
Yeah,
So
but
it's either
he's not
prophetic,
Nostradamus.
yeah, yeah, or
He was
or
no
it's
Nostradamus. He was just he had the only possible conclusion is that this is a plan that they loosely followed that
mm,
led into this is pretty general,
but that's
but
that's the part that
even
I'm like that I get skeptical of because I find it difficult to believe that where even this plan laid out, right? That it could be followed, especially due to the unpredictability of man and the
mhm,
amount of elements and individual unique vying for power amongst all the variables during these kind of conflicts or wars, that even if there was a plan in place, the idea that it came together so, I mean, I know it's not perfect, but it came together pretty neatly. If as far as the goals that were are being espoused here, that's the kind of stuff that makes me go like, okay, like how likely is it that such a plan would actually function as well as it did if in fact it
well,
was written? So then that makes me go like, how real is this? But but I'm fine. Like, so is there a lack of like proof as far as primary sources when it comes to this thing, or what's the issue? What are people claiming about it that they're saying it's not real? Like, what's the claim?
The source of it comes from those old texts,
Hmm.
but those old texts aren't readily available to the public. And the copy that this is sourced from was from
Hmm.
a British museum
Hmm.
that has taken it out of public view for the last close to 60 years.
So, but
So,
there is evidence that at some point it was in public view. Like, is there like documentation that at one point it was in a museum and it
we
was presented to
we have
people?
there is documentation that this thing existed. It's
Hmm.
just it's been obscured by people saying that it no longer exists or it never existed because it got
That's
taken
what I'm
out of public
curious
view.
about. See, I'm not surprised because stuff like that's happened, and it's throughout history, especially when you're talking wars, government coups, all kinds of information has been kind of stricken from the records temporarily until something gets resurfaces in some way or another, right? That's been a common occurrence, not common occurrence, but that's something that I would definitely believe would occur. I'm just wondering, uh, why would it have been displayed to begin with in a museum if, in fact, is presenting such the plans of the very people that are attempting to gain control? Why would they even allow it to be displayed at any point to begin with? Like, that. Then I'm curious about that too. You know?
Well, these things aren't really back in the day, we didn't have the internet, word didn't travel as fast as, modern day. You could instantaneously tattletale on your neighbor. And that's instantaneously, if I were to post something that the government didn't want posted on the internet,
Oh, it'd
I'm
be
sure they would
everywhere
have some
instantly.
bots. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd
So
be everywhere too
making
fast.
people there's powers that be that can shut down things very easily nowadays. I don't really know. But
Yeah.
whereas the
Okay.
past, it wasn't the case.
Yeah, I
It
can
was
imagine.
it,
So it's just the right curator found it to be an interesting thing. It got put out. It was out for a while until the right people got their mail, their snail mail, and they discovered that this thing was being put out on a museum, and then eventually they got to it and got rid of it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
right. And you got to consider, so if this was in the museum around the First World War, the Second World War era, and these things are pretty general. These things that it talks about, we didn't really see the effects of until more modern times. At least, you know, in 60s, 80s, that this information was even put into history so that everyone can read it, the general public. I'm sure the literal high societies or the academia or elite may have access to these histories. But again, it's only in the advent of the internet and maybe even public libraries to an extent that information has been really freely available for most people. So again, it's just one of those things where it the Illuminati wouldn't care if it was all their people that were reading it, but they would only really care if it started coming into the public view.
Okay. All right. All right. Continue. Sorry. Continue with the thing. I just wanted to kind of express my own thoughts on it.
No, probably the thoughts of other people out there. They may be listening. So I'm glad you bring up what's on your mind. I wanted to put this out there in everyone else's mind. So while we're going through all these presentations, they could look up this on their own. It's the Albert Knight letter to Mazzini, and then they can
They
have a
can,
think about it too.
come to their own
Yep.
conclusions, do their own research, all that kind of stuff. All right. Cool. Cool. Cool.
And we'll get into other hoaxes that have been quote unquote set as fake news over
I
time. But this is just
What's
the
funny
start
is
of
that
it.
Albert Pike is like I was just kind of trying to remember about Albert Pike, and I know he there was some kind of death hoax about him at some point on like a Mason publication, like for a while. they thought he was dead, but he actually wasn't, and they were writing an obituary and everything. I don't know. There's like this weird story about him that I found interesting. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, just me meandering.
No problem. Moving on, I'm gonna make sure that both of you can hear this. So I'll play it. Let me know if you can hear it. Okay?
You got it.
I don't.
If you're playing something right now, I
No.
can't hear it. No,
Yeah, there's no sound on it.
there's no sound.
No
Um,
no sound.
no, I'm
Okay.
not getting any sound on it.
Do you want?
Okay.
Can you send the?
Well,
Can you
look.
send it to Angst if you want?
Yeah,
Or
I
do you
can
want
try
to?
to.
Or do you want to
Sure.
summarize it?
Well, I'd rather play it since it gives me a
Yeah, send
chance
it
to
to
smoke
me.
my vape. So
I'll attempt to.
I
I'll
put
attempt.
I put it in the live chat, gentlemen.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, because I think I have the same problem as you. Whenever I try to play videos, it just doesn't like play for some reason.
All right, let me see if I can make it happen for us, and then if I can, wonderful. Okay, hold on. Let me screen share it on here for
Yep, I'll
us.
close.
Yeah,
I'll
go ahead.
temporarily stop my stream.
Yeah, and hold on. Sorry. Why is this being slow? Sorry.
Technical difficulties. Gotta love that in a live show. It always
Yeah, it's
happens.
always. I mean, it's part of the fun. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I should have it up now. So you can go ahead, and I can go.
All right, let's
If you can
see.
go ahead and magnify that for us.
Yep, it's up.
All right, let me attempt to play it. You tell me if the audio is coming through.
It is. Why is it working for you?
That's weird.
I don't know. All right, I'll full screen it.
Hello, History Hatters. This is the tale of a Confederate brigadier general once buried in one of Washington's oldest secular cemeteries against his will. He wanted to be cremated. Here we are. I found what we're searching for. The gravestone of General Albert Pike. Although there's a gravestone here in Oak Hill Cemetery for Albert Pike, he's no longer buried here. Congress moved his body in 1944 to the House of the Temple in the DuPont Circle neighborhood. Pike's remains were afforded a prominent placement within the House of the Temple, near the Pillars of Charity, a stained glass shrine honoring large donors of the Scottish Rite. The stained glass contains 33 rays of light beaming onto a model House of the Temple. 33 is a significant number because the Scottish Rite is a system of 33 degrees. The double-headed eagle is also a common symbol found throughout the House of the Temple. Pike's body is interred beyond his bronze bust, featured against this wall. Pike is a revered figure, having his own museum within the House of the Temple. Pike served as Sovereign Grand Commander for the last 32 years of his life. In 1871, he published a book, The Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The book is credited in helping spread Freemasonry in the 19th century. The museum contains several relics of Pike, including locks of his hair, used pipes, and a plaster death mask. Pike has a complex past and a controversial legacy. As a lawyer, he represented the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, and the Creek Nation in suits against the federal government. During the Civil War, he commanded Native American cavalry regiments loyal to the Confederacy. He's also accused of racism and may have been involved in the Ku Klux Klan. Despite his controversy, Pike is the only Confederate general to be honored by an outdoor public statue in our nation's capital. This statue was unveiled in 1901, with a Grand Master Mason performing the proper rituals. Notice how the bronze flag bearer wields a Masonic symbol that should by now be quite familiar to us, the double-headed eagle. While no one is calling for Pike's body to be removed from the House of the Temple, there are those calling for his statue to be removed from Judiciary Square. You may have forgotten, but the history hat is a magical hat. When walking away from photographing Pike's statue, The hat of history made me pause outside the D.C. Court of Appeals, the highest court for the District of Columbia. Before me laid a mystery. Why a Confederate general stood taller and more decorated than President Lincoln, who preserved our current union. Subscribe by clicking on the History Hat logo.
Okay,
To con-
we're
Well,
good there.
if we're gonna have use their video, I like to say subscribe to the History Hat.
Yeah, the
Support 'em,
historyhat.com,
yeah,
YouTube.
you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like, yeah, we
yeah, I
always got to give
appreciate that
credit
guy.
when
He does
credit is
good
due.
content.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting.
But
I'm gonna go ahead and check some of that stuff out later.
but anything pop out in your mind as you watch that?
Does anything pop out in my mind as I watch that? Okay, I mean, plenty. There's plenty to discuss, but I don't know that I'm supposed to be like. Go ahead. You're leaving me in suspense. Go ahead. Tell me what's supposed to pop out.
Okay, you both can see my screen, right?
Let me go back
Uh,
to it real quick. Hold on.
yeah. Let me go back to it. Okay,
Okay,
so stained glass window, which is actually
yeah.
quite pretty. Just on an artistic scale. It's very nice.
Do either of you read Latin?
No, I don't read
No.
Latin. No. Do you read Latin, or do
Okay,
you?
this
I believe you read Latin.
Well, I wouldn't
It's
be surprised.
possible.
I know some Latin.
I know what this stained glass says. So we
Okay.
have down here is order out of chaos. And as it pans up,
Hmm.
we see fiat lux, which is let there be light. So again, I think the light motif goes with the Lucifer, the light bringer. This is just based off like mythos that they were using. It doesn't necessarily mean Satanism. It just means that yeah, a cultic understanding of light, which is a very interesting thing. If anybody out there, and I was curious, looking in some quantum physics about light, you should look into the double slit experiment, double
Oh
slit
yeah.
experiment. And uh, do either of you familiar with that one?
Oh yeah. I've heard all kinds of stuff pertaining to that. Yeah.
How juicy is
There's a
it?
lot of.
Basically,
How juicy is it? I
observation.
want to know.
Uh, Observation is what controls the atoms that they're flinging through two slits and what it will look like on the back wall. If no one is watching, there's a random pattern. And it doesn't really make any sense, say if you're pushing water through two slits, you're going to assume that there's a stain on the back wall that resembles the two slits that you're throwing the water through. I think it's just like they're measuring the atoms or the neutrons that they're throwing at the back wall, similar to water.
And
But if no one is watching, it's a random pattern.
I being the party
So
pooper
it
that I
really,
am, I have to always say there are arguments against this double slit experiment and the interpretations, and then there's counter arguments and there's counter arguments, and there's still a debate. There's a significant debate going on when it comes to the prescriptive statements or the implications of said experiment. But anyway, I just want
well,
to. That's just me
I
being a
only
party
bring it up.
pooper.
I only bring it up because I brought up earlier about the idea of manifesting reality. Well,
Mhm.
reality, everything that we see in the world is based off of one thing, which is light. If we couldn't see it, nothing would exist in a sort of a philosophical standpoint. But maybe there's more to that. So, does the Illuminati, does the Scottish Rite Freemasonry know? This is an interesting connection to that idea or concept that could be real. Um, also at the end of this presentation, we saw the statue. It's like he said, the only Southern general to be prominently displayed in our national's capital. And very close by is Abraham Lincoln. He's like a short little stature compared to Albert Pike. Um, and we're going to get into that. Maybe why that symbolism is the case in a moment. But just sort of to bring this back to modern times, not that I like to bring up Orange Man very often, but Orange Man was very upset when he heard the news that Albert Pike statue, the one we were just looking at, was toppled over by protests, and he called for it to be restored. And he didn't really care about any other statue, just this one in particular, which I caught to be very interesting. Uh, but the main conspiracy, if we didn't have the Mazzini to Albert Pike letter to go off of to think about, is this guy connected to the overall Illuminati plot? The Knights of the Golden Circle is that conspiracy that kind of thinks, and I asked you both earlier, you've never heard basically of this group. So I wanted to go through this article and sort of educate people because this is probably the best one that I've come across. So the Knights of the Golden Circle sought to create a confederation that would encompass 2,400 square miles from the southern United States to South America and run on the labor of slaves. So Bickley, he was sort of the figurehead, the showman of this organization, and that's him pictured there. But there is evidence to suggest that Albert Pike was sort of the back end influence of this sort of fraternal secret society of the South at the time. From this card, you can see Booth. You might recognize that name. Yes, indeed, that is John Wilkes Booth, the guy who put the bullet in Kennedy's head. Or not Kennedy, the other one, Lincoln's head.
I believe
I've
yeah.
through time. Don't you know the Illuminati put him in a time machine?
I knew he had that shit.
Gave him curved laser bullets.
Yeah.
Let him shoot from the green
Steam
and
powered.
from the
magic
windowsill at the
bullet
same
was
time.
Indeed.
Came from different
Well,
directions.
it
all
went
from
right.
Booth.
I like that theory, actually. I know it. The bullet passed right through Lincoln and went through a portal and hit right.
Yeah,
right
oh yeah,
through
Yeah,
Kennedy's
oh
head.
yeah, oh yeah.
There's a small
That's the
portal
magic
inside.
bullet, Perry.
That was actually
We
the
just
intended
figured
goal.
it out.
The intended goal wasn't even to kill Lincoln. It was actually to kill Kennedy.
Lincoln's
Because,
brains
Lincoln's
was a
brain-
portal. It was a portal
He
to
had a
get
portal inside
to
of his brain.
Kennedy. That makes perfect fucking sense.
That's
It
why
makes
they can
perfect
never find
sense.
the actual shooter because it was Booth.
That
Time-traveling
sly
bullet.
That's why
bastard.
Wait, that's funny too because wasn't there a time traveling bullet? I think if you're comic book nerds again, if you're listening, was there a time traveling bullet at some point that killed Captain America or some shit like that? There's like some kind of time dimensional bullet. Maybe that's what Booth
There has to be.
Anyway, sorry.
But that was
sorry.
referencing this, of course. Like they were doing
Yeah,
a subtle nod. They're giving a shout out to to Booth in Marvel Comics. That's great.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry. That was just too. That was just
No,
too
I've
funny
been
to.
on-
That was
I've been
too
on-
much of a slip to not pass up because it was funny.
No, I was off muted laughing to myself, so I completely understand. But so, okay. Going back to the article, Alexander the Great Epitaph expressed the sentiment that the world is not enough. That's also the title of a James Bond film. It's a weird fact. In the mid-19th century United States, a group of Southern men known as the Knights of the Golden Circle subscribed to a similar philosophy. The secret society hatched a plot to protect and extend slavery, arguably the most contentious issue in the history of the United States. While we don't have too much detail on the Knights and their history is mirrored in rumor, we do know their ultimate goal to create an empire that would stretch from the Caribbean to the Pacific, built on tobacco, cotton, sugar, and the blood and sweat of slaves. Fodder for the pro-slavery groups like Knights of the Golden Circle. The North and Southern United States had adopted different approaches to slavery since the country was colonized. While the North was certainly not slavery-free, Its economic system did not rely solely on the forced labor of enslaved African Americans. More importantly, the northern states did gradually come to prohibit slavery. Gradually, I'm going to slide in there. The Reconstruction period was a complete disaster. Uh, if you think about this aspect, that John Wilkes Booth may have been a part of the secret society. He went off and killed Lincoln. That's sort of like in chess, you kill the king. This secret society may have actually won the game of chess there, because after the fact, the Reconstruction period, slaves weren't actually freed. They were restricted to work certain jobs like farmer or housemaid, depending on your gender. And if they got a job outside of that, they could have be. The irony is, when a freed person, a freed slave, was broke the law in the South back then, they were made back into a slave. So they had to work money free for their time that they were endured, and yet they in the prison system of whatnot. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of vitriol there. But I won't touch base on relate to it. But I wanted to bring up the topic of slavery and the knowledge that the Knights of the Golden Circle were heavily entrenched in it, because that was sort of um, a market back then. It was a very lucrative form of making money. Um, this is not a new concept to history. Previous groups were also involved in such things, um, which I'll lexicate into one particular group because it relates to this connection to Albert Pike. Um, but I wanted to scroll down here and show that this is basically the area that they were going to try and tackle. They before the Civil War occurred, um, they had hatched a plan to invade Mexico and take over of the, all of this area up until the tip of South America, because this was just free slave area. Caribbean slaves, Mexican slaves, Aztec slaves. Colombia, that didn't turn out too well. That just ended up to be a drug trade thing and chaos. But they uh, they ended up putting that off because of the Civil War, and they diverted their resources back to helping the South win. History shows that they didn't win. The assassination of Lincoln and the Reconstruction period would suggest that they sort of did win, in the sense that, um, although slave trade was becoming illegal, slowly over time, they started to take more influence away from common people, and it's both mainly a slave mind slave system, I think. Because none of you people are, none of either of you have probably heard about this group yet in your life, nor their kind of prominence or ideas of invading Mexico, right?
No, I'm actually
That
not familiar
is,
with this at all.
that's news to me.
Can you send me a link
And
to the what you're showing right now? I'd actually be interested in looking at some of this stuff.
Oh, that's actually a good
Concerning
idea.
how,
We should add all the links to the video description
yeah, that'll make
afterwards.
it for extra
I,
fun. By the way, we have something in chat. I
yeah,
just wanted to read it. See here. You can't kill the king in chess. Obviously, that's a conspiracy too. Chess is a game that is designed to make us believe we can't actually kill the oligarchs, only get them to submit to other oligarchs. We're not allowed to harm the kings. That's what somebody said regarding chess.
well, in chess, they don't show the aftermath of checkmate, but there is an aftermath of checkmate. It's just that this game is played by kings historically, that they don't want to get into that aftermath. They call it like honor, that the king surrenders. But no, if the king doesn't surrender, there's ass fucking.
Oh,
We
is there?
oh
There's
uh
actual ass fucking. Okay.
yeah, that's actually one of the best parts of the game of chess. Is always the after party.
If
Uh,
you were playing chess against Vlad the Impaler, he would impale you
that's right,
with
he
his
Yeah.
would.
dick.
That's
Or
right, he
ways that
would.
much. That's cool.
Just a heads up, we
Um,
are 1:15 right now.
okay, I'll start scooting through this because these are going to be links in the comments. Everyone's homework, go through this article, learn everything you can about the Golden Circle because there's treasure. There is reward in your future. Yes, there is. Um, Knights of the Golden Circle hid gold, and they hid silver too. They hid it every motherfucking place. And there's still gold and silver that has not been recovered.
Now you're
And here it
talking.
is something that
Hmm.
if you live in places like in the South, or potentially on the border of places that would be Mexico, uh, in southern border, you might be interested to learn some of this history because it could make you very rich. Like, huh, like this is you saw our national treasure and the Templar treasure. This is sort of an equivalency to that. Um, so what they did was they um, used rocks and trees and they carved markings in it so that these markings would be a um, more or less permanent. At least they weren't thinking the mats would be used 100, 200 years later, but permanent for the time. This that people would have to learn the secrets to decoding that map that pointed towards the treasure. Um, Says people that have found this treasure, so I can tell you that it's not Bukaki that I'm talking about. These boys here, in 1934 found 5,000 gold coins, and I don't even want to think about how much money that is in today's money.
Yeah, it's gonna
If
be
you think that
a
each
nice
coin with
chunk
an
of
ounce.
change. Yeah, yeah,
They
that's
could
a nice.
participate in all the bukakis after this shit.
Yeah, yeah. Each
They
coin's an ounce is 5,000 ounces of gold. That's a nice.
Mhm.
That's a nice treasure. Yes.
It, and they have the prominence of having a historical provenance to them, so you could probably add even more
No,
premium on that
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because
Total premium. Yes.
this is like shipwreck treasure.
Yeah, it's like
That
finding
comes with a
bullions.
higher
Yeah, yeah.
premium.
Especially because of the
So, but
print,
where
what's
did this?
imprinted on them. They're actually worth more, uh, not melted down. Like like you
Yeah, yeah.
say.
Don't melt them down. Yeah,
Don't melt those
those,
down.
those, those are
Keep
those
them,
are.
keep them bullions. Keep them gold
Don't
coins.
don't use the tinfoil trick and clean them up either. We want the tarnish. We want the whatever damage is on there
Yeah,
makes it
just
more and
evidence.
adds to
Yeah,
the weight.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So,
Agreed on that.
uh,
Agreed on that.
but this is still going on today. People are still looking for this treasure. Our government is obscuring evidence of
Why wouldn't I'm
people
curious?
trying to find it.
Why wouldn't they just enough gold to give Vlad to let you impale him with your excess cheddar cheese? Um, why wouldn't instead of trying to like cover it up, right? Judge orders FBI to produce records on Civil War gold hunt. Why wouldn't they just retrieve said gold themselves and then just add it to the treasury or put it in a museum or do something else with it? Why leave it out there buried?
That is a very interesting question. I think I have a theory on that. All right, and that
Okay,
goes into our next tab here.
cool.
This is a medal. If you see if I can, there we go. So this is a Knights of the Golden Circle medallion. Does that
Uh-huh.
shape resemble anything to you?
Let me see. I can't. Trying to see it here. Let me look on my because I was looking at the stream, but let me look at it on the like an iron
It's the
cross.
biggest I can make it, unfortunately. Let me see.
Are we
It's
talking
sort
like
of
an
a
iron?
iron cross, yeah. So
Yeah,
So you think it like Nazis, that Iron SS cross and stuff like
yeah.
that. But again,
This
this would be
predates
Civil
not. I
War
mean,
age, so
yeah,
it
yeah. This is predates Nazis, but I mean, an iron cross is not the. That's probably not the first time it's ever been used, right? But anyway, yeah, I
right.
can't
What,
see
what
what the
would be
top
the
is.
most? That's just a knight's head. So it's usually
Okay.
something like on seals or
Yeah.
paternal crests and whatnot. But yeah, this
Oh,
is
I
what I
see.
was
I
trying to
see.
get you to.
Gotcha.
All right. So
Uh,
the oldest version of this would be the Templar cross. It has another name, but Templar cross is probably the most common. Um, but what similarity did the Templars and the Knights of the Golden Circle have? Oh, they were both slave traders.
there
Dun dun
wasn't too many people that
dun.
weren't slave traders, though.
What?
During certain portions of history, like the slave trading was pretty common hat in a lot of times in history.
It was
But
like
anyway,
being a
let's continue on.
janitor. A janitor.
I don't know about that, but yeah, slave trade is not an uncommon practice throughout history. It just depends on how you want to word it. But anyway, that's neither here
Well,
nor there.
it
Go ahead.
well, the Hospitaller Templars, as they're used to be called, they're just Templars, are a order of the Catholic Church. So at the one time, they're trying to save everyone's souls. On the other hand, they're trying to enslave everyone for free labor. The two don't mirror. They're very hypocritical sort of um, markets to
Not
be in my opinion.
not unless
There's a
those slaves
conflict
are
of interest.
heathens or heretical, then it's
Oh, right,
allowed.
right.
That's how that works. If you,
It's a cherry pick.
Mhm.
Jesus didn't say salvation for everyone but heathens.
Yeah. No, that's the
But
part. That's
it's
another
neither that.
conspiracy that they erased that part. They got rid of the part.
Oh, I knew they got rid of that. I knew
They
it.
got rid of the part where you specified heathens.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I don't know.
But other than slaves, they dealt in political prisoners. I think is another big one to kind of
Oh yeah,
hammer
that's
home. Is
common.
like,
That's even more common. Yeah.
yeah, but what were the Templars created for? They were, in a nutshell, created because the Catholic Church wanted to make sure that the trade routes wouldn't be fucked with by bandits or XYZ. So they were people, or basically they were the mafia that they sent into hostile areas and fleeced the people there. Hey, we'll keep your roads safe if you give us some money and feed us, and hell, then we're going to take your sick political prisoners and we'll take some of them as slaves. They were not good people. But what they did was they amassed a whole lot of treasure. So what if the Templars were,
Hmm.
had influence over Albert Pike and his Knights of the Golden Circle because they shared a sort of ideological commonplace? Basically, the same things that the Templars were doing, the Knights of the Golden Circle were doing. That's just what I leave out there in internet space is what if the Templars just became something else and they morphed just like other secret societies like the Illuminati or fill in the blank there into different things. And it's just what you needed to look for is not so much associations to Illuminati or associations to groups, but associations to ideology and associations to change and
Yeah,
force change.
that's far more
Uh,
relevant. I
th-
agree.
So that's basically my presentation today on slavery and Albert Pike and the Illuminati, and I think we're still dealing with a semblance of what we are dealing with in the Civil War days today. It's a different game. It's played by the same players. They can't overtly enslave people anymore, but they still watch slaves, right? The people that are subscribed to everything Apple, that sort of have a cult-like mentality for Apple products. That's an example of basic mind slavery, in my opinion. When somebody is just can't rationalize any other product as being good and it's only Apple. It is sort of these psychological things that people should be more aware of that they may be, you know, being undue influenced by people that just understand how to influence people more than just a relative manipulator can.
Well, you see it everywhere with advertising, and whenever you mention
Oh yeah.
something, you're gonna see an ad on your phone instantly, like of that one thing you randomly
Hmm.
said. Doesn't matter how random it was. In fact, I think it's almost pops up more often when you bring up something new. So you
My
bring up
my
like
my
yachts.
my wife was saying that she was tripping because she noticed that every time she picked up her phone, it would send her notifications that were ads. Like it would be like she wouldn't touch her phone for a while, and then the moment she'd pick it up and unlock it to look for something, suddenly she would get like all these kind of like pop up, like all these notifications from like apps and such that
It would
she's
wait. It's
Well,
waiting.
I don't know how they would do that, but she said it would happen even
so
before
there was a
she actually touched the screen. Like she would just pick it up and she would get them, and then she tested it and
so
she's like,
that's
"Well, it
makes
keeps happening."
me that makes me think about something that I can actually give a real world example people can look towards. Several years back, when Facebook came out with their app for the phone, there was sort of these people that started noticing that the things that they would say in conversation when they're around their phone would then appear as advertisements. You know, they were talking about a trampoline, and that day, as soon as they logged into Facebook, they would see advertisements for trampolines. And Facebook actually did have to admit that they were using people's microphones to listen to them, and that prompted Google to come out with updates that you can turn off individual permissions on your phone. So these things are real, you know. They'll take a mile if you give them an inch. And so you expose what they're doing, and then only then after you expose it and this controversy, then they have to potentially change. There's all these
Mitigate.
things going on all the different times.
Well, even
Uh,
the school webcam shit that I use, I looked into their user agreements and looked into some of their past, and because I was looking at remote
They
work
can
and
spy on
seeing,
you.
oh yeah, they basically it said if you had the program on, it was always recording what you were saying. Like that's what it said. So you just even if you had the program, and it's real sneaky because you could close the window obviously and not have it on, but it's still running in the background. So you actually had to go into the task manager and scroll all the way down through all the system controls to actually turn it off. Otherwise, it was constantly recording
Mhm.
what you were saying.
based.
It's a violation, in my opinion, but
I
not
got
enough people
It's not a
care.
violation if you agree to it
So,
on a contract.
Yeah,
That's the
did you
worst part.
read the
well, how
user
many?
agreement?
No, I know what you're saying, but that's the workaround. Cheddar cheese said ads pop up when I just think about something.
You're on that next level ad shit, Cheddar.
Yeah, you opted in at some
Where
point in
where are you
your
seeing this? I'm not
contract.
seeing. Oh, okay. I'm finally seeing it. Okay, my
You're
shit's
not seeing
fucking
the
live.
live chat. Are you
No, it's
serious?
it's not it's not updating on my end. Even on the
Wow,
page, it's not. Trash, trash,
trash.
garbage. All right. Closing statements. I know we could go on longer, but we'll try to keep these
Hmm.
at 90. That way we
Yeah,
can. I
90's
mean, you
good.
guys will talk for fucking 2 days straight if I fucking let you.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah. If it wasn't for dehydration, I probably could.
Hey,
I
no, I got through 98% of what I wanted to, and the last thing I'm not even going to bring up because I think I hammered it home in a different way earlier. Um, I hope everyone learned something. Give them something to look up or in their free time because I find all this history to be very relevant still today. Uh, in- be it that we're not in chains, we are still sort of in chains because, again, right behind me is the Civil War. That is what's happening online every day. We have to stop that. If we keep throwing around ad hominems, these people that may have a plan that's been going on for 200 or so years or longer are going to win. Do you want that? Do you want that to be the case? I don't want that to be the case. I don't want
Somebody
asshats to
media might
win.
want that.
I like and want many things in my life.
It depends. Is he at the top?
Wait. How much money do I have at the top of the body pyramid of all the piles of bodies and shit? That's that.
all it comes down to.
How many of the
And,
homies are there?
If people can also on their own time look up the Albert Pike to Mazzini letter, it's on archive.org and other places. Just read those things for yourself and think about it. And think about the World War III prediction and apply those words to, whatever word is more modern equivalency to each one of those things. Like minority revolutionaries, that could be minority POC groups or other, you know, minority groups that have controversy these days. I won't name anyone there just for out of respect, but also think about the polarization that's happening on anonymous message boards where you have a pro far right group and then it's polarized against a certain minority. Maybe if you look at that Albert Pike letter, you'll see that that could potentially be all a part of a bigger game to divide us all, where if we just come together and say, fuck all the things in our past and just go forward from now, united to fix the world, maybe things will change. But we're going to keep going until all the people that aren't convinced that something fuckety is going on, I'm going to keep going until everyone is awake.
And one of the best ways to do that is to join the SDC Patreon page and sign up for that low tier membership, which gets you the baby ape status. Oh, only $7.25, the government minimum wage. You guys can't afford it. It's 1 hour out of your workday. You know we deserve it. And you gotta do it. You gotta fucking do it. Angst, what is your Patreon page and Twitter and Twatter?
Angst, Twatter as I like to call it. It's Schizoid Angst. Go to my channel, Schizoid Angst. Hopefully you put my YouTube channel in the description. I don't even know if you do.
In theory.
But that would be cool. In theory. So in any case, I check that out. Also, last quick words is all I learned today is that we should be paying very, very close attention to the based on a true story games that are Assassin's Creed. The Assassin's Creed
yes, it did. Yes.
And then also everyone look up and read up on Albert Pike, correct?
Yep.
Albert Pike, not to be confused with Albert Fish nor Fat Albert.
Fat Albert is pretty cool, though. He is pretty cool, man. He ate all kinds of
Albert Fish is less cool.
Oh, so if we're rating them on a scale of coolness.
And least us not forget. And least us not forget, STC has partnered with Satoshi Metals, and we have brought out the first ever fine silver, pure silver butt plug.
That is correct. We have put Satoshi Metals is a beautiful company. I will personally show myself wearing that butt plug, and I love Satoshi Metals. I heard that he is responsible for stopping a meteor that was going to hit the Earth last week, but he threw one of those silver butt plugs, guys, at the meteor. And it stopped it. It shattered the meteor. And the butt plug came back. It came back because Satoshi threw it himself. So thank you, Satoshi Metals, for doing that.
Another fun conspiracy
Boomerang
for another time is that I've seen people write articles that they think Satoshi was actually Steve Jobs.
Oh, that's nice.
The creator of Bitcoin was actually Steve Jobs this entire time. Or some shit. I've read that somewhere. I found it funny. Anyway.
Also, for
all
this,
I know about that topic is it's DARPA.
We will dive into that at some point when we're done with
link up the crypto and the all the silver stuff too.
I gotta get to modern times, so we gotta be at least
Yeah,
2 or
climb
3
up there.
more
We'll get there. We'll
episodes, and then
get
we'll
there.
be caught up.
We'll get there. We'll get there. For sure.
What I'm going to
'Cause
be doing for the next ones that we do, I'm actually going to start uploading these to the official SDC YouTube. So I'll actually just start live
awesome.
streaming them there, and everything that's on here on my channel, I'm going to unlist them so that all SDC related videos get posted on the new channel for
Oh,
SDC.
okay.
It
Sounds
just
good.
only makes sense. Like, you might as well.
It really does. It really does make sense at this point. All right, then.
But thank you both for bringing in all the knowledge, all the beauty of the world, all the conspiracies. I have conspiracy OD right now. I'm ready. I'm ready to go outside and stare at my neighbors until I see the conspiracies that they are hiding in their windows while they're sleeping. Whatever. I'm gonna keep staring
Look for
until I see
owls.
it all. The
You're
scoundrelry.
gonna start uploading gang stalking videos.
Yeah, yes I am.
Whoa.
Yes I am.
Wonderful.
Pay attention. Pay attention to the owls, everyone. Pay attention, because people like social media influencers, if you see owls in their profile or they upload owl pictures, then that's suspicious.
And if you see an owl in the wild, you have to attack it violently, instantly and violently. All owls you see.
Murder it, eat
Owls are
it, and
dickheads.
possibly
Yeah.
fuck it.
Yeah, if you could do all these things, you will make an owl human hybrid, and then you
which
could.
will combat the
I've never-
Illuminati.
It will combat the Illuminati.
I have never met a nice owl. Take that as you will.
I will take it at that. Thank you
Winnie the
both.
Pooh would say otherwise. All right.
Thank you both for joining, and everyone that joined the live stream, all 2 of you, thanks for jumping on in. All the links will be in the description later after I eat, so don't worry about it. It'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll fucking get there.
Yeah, really quick. Anthony says, so you must be against Hololive Mume. I guess it's probably a VTuber that is an owl.
Oh,
So you better go after her. I guess.
go right
She's
after
part of-
Hololive
she's part of
Mume.
Hololive Mume.
Even those. But if she is a waifu, we will let it slide. All waifus
We'll
get the
let her be
pass.
part of the Bohemian Grove slide.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll let all waifus slide because they do no wrong. They do no
Bohemian
wrong.
Grove waifus.
Hey,
Bohemian-
if she reaches
trademark
out to
that.
me, I'll vet her. How about that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm sure. Don't let
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I hope
right.
so. I
Later,
hope so.
guys.
Take everyone for joining.
Yeah, take care.
And see ya fucks later.